Welcome to the Bettis Musgrove Show, the podcast where personal injury legal expertise meets real-world advice to empower and protect you. Join us as we delve into the critical aspects of personal injury cases, break down legal jargon into actionable insights, and share essential safety tips to help you navigate life's unexpected moments. And now, here are your hosts, Spenser Bettis and Ben Musgrove.
All right, welcome to the Bettis Musgrove Show, special edition today. As always, I'm Ben Musgrove. These are my law partners, Spenser Bettis, Christopher Light. We're coming back to you today, continuing our talk about community involvement, all the special people we have in and around Forsyth County in this area. And we're honored to be joined by Georgia's 7th District Representative in Congress, Dr. Rich McCormick. Thank you for joining us today. This is awesome. So we've covered state reps, mayors, city councilmen, a lot of nonprofits, but we never got to go to the federal level. So it's really special to get to talk to you today. And you've got an absolutely impressive resume. I think in today's culture, folks are used to getting 30-second sound bites, maybe a minute and a half on the news. So something like this where we can spend 30, 45 minutes with you and just really get to know you is awesome. So if you would, do me a favor, introduce yourself, tell us where you come from, how you got here, that type of thing.
That's kind of a long, convoluted story. Congressman Rich McCormick from the Georgia 7th District, newly formed since the first election when it was the 6th District.
Okay.
It's largely the same district. We ended up picking up Johns Creek. We also picked up Lumpkin County and West Hall County. We lost Sugar Hill and East Cobb. Extremely conservative district now. We're supposed to be about a 13% PVI. In other words, we're supposed to win by 13%. We ended up winning by 29%.
That's impressive.
It basically goes right up to 400. All of North Fulton surrounds Lake Lanier. So we have all of Forsyth, East Cherokee, Dawson County, Lumpkin County, and West Hall. Phenomenal. It's the wealthiest district in Georgia.
Okay.
Per capita, per GDP. It's top 5 in the nation. Out of 435 districts in the United States, top 5. It actually has a higher median income than Dallas-Fort Worth. They have more billionaires, but we have more millionaires. We have about 10,000 CEOs. We have the highest education rate. We have, I think, 10 of the top 25 schools, high schools in Georgia. Phenomenal ownership of homes. I mean, highly educated. It's about 40% minorities.
Okay.
Probably one of the reasons we're so wealthy is because most of that is East Asian, Indian, right. Korean, Japanese, Chinese, you name it. But it's also had a really good voter participation. Usually minorities don't turn out to vote. We actually had the highest voter turnout in all of Georgia. The second place was over 4% less than us.
Really?
For voter turnout. And we had the best results above expectations. We actually, if you look at the spread, outperformed President Trump by about 8 points in spread. So that's just a kudos to my team, to our ability to communicate. Obviously, we're all on the same side, but it just shows you that this is a very independent-minded, very educated district, very much about business. And that's what I love about this district. Yeah. I always say that the business of America is business. That's Calvin Coolidge saying from about 100 years ago. When we have good business, everybody has a job, everybody has an income, everybody's happy, everybody gets along. That's our district.
Yep. Well, where do you come from originally?
So I was born in Vegas. My dad was a deputy sheriff. Today we're at the Cumming office for the police.
Thank you for saying I did a poor job of introducing that.
I was going to say, yeah, we glossed right over that.
Right
We've
past.
Been working out this morning and we're found dead.
Yeah, so anybody watching, we're sitting here in workout gear right now, and I want to sort of dispel a myth that I had in my head anyway. I've got several friends that are doctors. I always call them nerds. This morning we worked out and you proved that physicians are not nerds. I mean, you absolutely whooped us in the gym. So that was impressive.
Well, I used to be a PT animal when I was in the Marine Corps. I used to take that very seriously. Won lots of awards because that was my focus, my focal point. But eventually our bodies start to break down. We have to find out what we're good at. So I have a million ways to win. I just pick things that I'm good at. But it's funny. I always say Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah.
But we always fight, go down swinging. That's the way I look at it. But to your point earlier, I was born to a law enforcement community. My dad was a deputy sheriff in Vegas when I was born. My mom was living with my uncle, who was an Air Force pilot at the time at Nellis Air Force Base when they met. Grew up mostly in Oregon, that conservative bastion of political surroundings.
Yeah.
Portland, Oregon, of all places. but very much during the Reagan era is kind of when I was formed. Went to Oregon State is where I got my BS from. Not BS the way most people think of it. Well, maybe a little bit. But then went into Marine Corps in 1990 is when I got commissioned as an officer, and moved to the East Coast, at Quantico, Virginia, went through the basic school, which all Marines have to go through, for 6 months. Learned to be an infantry officer first. And then, once you're done with that, I go to flight school, in Pensacola, Florida, and Corpus Christi, Texas. Then went back to Tustin, California, which is where I was based, as a helicopter pilot. Did a couple of Marine Expeditionary Force tours for 6 months at a time, plus 6 month workups. So a lot of time away from family, in the Persian Gulf, Africa, all over the Middle East. This is in 94, 96. And then came back, was able to go to this unit called the 1st ANCO, Air and Naval Gunfire Liaison Company. Cool place to be. So this is an airborne unit. So first of all, never trust a pilot who can jump out of an airplane.
Or they wants to.
Yeah. That's right. But I got to jump with some great guys. I mean, half my team ran perfect physical fitness tests. They're just animals, and that's what we did. We work out every day. That's before your body breaks down. Just love that unit. And then went back to the cockpit, flew out of Hawaii, back to 53 community. That's why I was 53 pilot. It's a big heavy lift helicopter. Deployed again before that to Korea a couple times, to Guam, to Japan. Just really enjoyed those kind of deployments. You go all over the world. And then got my MBA somewhere in that mess of deployments, in between deployments, because you had to do, back then we had to go to school in person. You didn't do it by correspondence. And then eventually we're supposed to go to Joint Special Operations Command in Fort Bragg, which is my dream job.
Right.
And I was given the job, really excited about it, but 9/11 happened around the same time. Called a buddy. I played 8 years of all-Marine rugby by the same time.
Okay.
And actually, postscript, did a commercial for the Marine Corps right after I got in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys remember in the early 90s, and you can look this up on YouTube.
I saw researching you last night.
The United States chess commercial.
Yep.
So for the Marines, and it's a knight in shining armor hacking through all these people, and then the horse rears up, the lightning hits the sword, turns into the feud, the proud, the Marines. That was me. I was the face of the Marine Corps for a while. That's heck of an honor.
That's incredible.
They got me on the American Gladiators.
Okay.
Did all the way to the grand championship of that. That was a great time too. I still keep in touch with a couple of Gladiators.
Really?
Kind of fun. They just did a Muscles of Mayhem Netflix series on that, which and matter of fact, I'm gonna bring out the guy who was laser for an event. I think that'll be a good time too.
I mean, the American Gladiators.
I remember laser. I remember that commercial vividly now that you mention it, but also laser. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the only guy to ever beat laser and pugil sticks, and we kind of bonded over that. And the guy was an animal. The guy, these guys outweighed you by like 100 pounds, and they're just sheer muscles.
Yeah.
And the entertainment was watching me get beat up by these guys. I think I separated both of my shoulders that week. We did 3 shows.
Face of the Marines, though, you got to come in there.
That's right. We brought it. I mean, did well though, and I had a good time. But just it's amazing. You look at the way things work out. Because when I was supposed to go to JSOC, there was I called a rugby buddy of mine that I'd played rugby with on combined service. So top level rugby, went to ITTs, which is interterritorial tournament.
Yep.
8 best teams in America go there and play. And you play against literally Eagles. And I'm not about the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm talking about American Eagles for rugby, and a phenomenal experience, a camaraderie. And I called this guy. I'm like, hey, I'm coming your way. I can't wait. He's like, you're gonna love it. Best job ever. But it's post 9/11. Now realize, we're going to be gone 9 months out of the year. Everybody here is going through a divorce. Everybody I know is going through a divorce.
Yeah.
You're going to love it. She's going to hate it. You're going to be 9 months of the year gone, but you're going to work with Delta Force, SEAL teams. But even when you're home for the 3 months, you're going to be working ungodly hours.
Right.
But you're going to love it. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I have a 9-month-old.
Yeah.
I have 1 on the way. I've been gone 2.5 out of 3 years deployed. 2.5 out of 5 years deployed.
Yeah.
The wife's not doing so well right now.
Yeah.
And I'm about to go to that job next. So I thought about it, prayed about it, boom, it hit me. I'm supposed to be an ER doc. Now this is a guy, I don't even read very well. So I hate school. I wasn't even supposed to go. Matter of fact, I wasn't even supposed to go to school, not to college.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to graduate high school. I'd signed my delayed entry program for the Army. I was 17 years old, just getting ready to graduate. And I see this movie, this documentary. You guys probably heard of it. Top Gun?
Yeah.
Great documentary.
Great documentary.
And it changed my life, though. I was like, well, how do you do that? They're like, you got to go to college. I'm like, I'd only applied to one college as an extra credit assignment for social studies. and so on a whim, I went to college.
Yeah.
And everybody I met there that impressed me in the Navy ROTC unit they were Marine officers. They're a little more fit, a little more motivated. They're intense people, but they were good at what they did.
Right.
And that changed my trajectory. And then once again, going to aviation and doing all the things I did, you meet these people that are highly educated. They're getting their MBAs. I'm like, how do I do that? So you rise to that challenge, that competition, and it drives you out through the life. But unfortunately, JSOC, which was my dream job, it was going to lose me my family.
Sure.
So I thought it would be really a lot easier to go to pre-med and medical school instead, right? Much easier. So I went I called up my detailer. I said, hey, this sounds crazy. I know this is a job I'm begging for. Can I be a Marine officer instructor? He said, hell no, that was 2 weeks ago due, and that's very competitive, and those slots are all filled.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, whatever God gives me is gonna happen. So leap of faith, I said, okay, whatever happens. And he calls me the next day. He says, hey, I need a guy with an MBA at Georgia Tech and Morehouse. Nobody else has one. Can you do that? It was my first choice. I had an MBA just by happenstance, right?
Yeah.
So once again, that trajectory that you can't make this stuff up. So I went here in Georgia. This is about 2000, 2001.
Okay.
And my second son was born here. My third son was born here. Matter of fact, I got to deliver my third son, which is kind of cool. I made friends with the OBGYN. So when I tell him, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out.
Literally.
I really mean it. I really mean it.
Yeah.
So I did my pre-med while I was at Georgia Tech.
Okay.
I was teaching at Morehouse and Spelman and Clark Atlanta at the same time. And then at the time, Morris Brown, so the part of the AUC. Here's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Still
Wait. Here's where.
All right, we'll start now.
So my wife leaves, but she allows me to have custody of the kids.
Okay.
No custody battle. And because they're boys. The boys need the father around. Anybody who does studies knows that that's really important, right? And it's not that she's gone, but I want to keep them close to her too.
Sure.
So I chose to go to a local medical school, Morehouse School of Medicine, the closest school I got accepted to.
Yep.
Now, people probably don't realize, but it's about 60% female, about 80% black, and 95% liberal.
Yeah.
So the same year Obama was elected president of the United States, my senior year, I was elected student body president at that school.
That's incredible.
Which is kind of cool. And it's a testimony to why relationships trump politics.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, when I was in the Marines, when I was a doctor, ER doctor, very popular. As soon as you go into politics, you're very unpopular. It just happens instantly.
Sure.
Half America hates you. And even inside your party, primary system makes just people hate you.
Yep.
Anybody who's in politics knows that, right? So 4 years of medical school at Morehouse, another 3 years at Emory. I got accepted at Emory, which is a godsend because most people have to do the military service in service. I was allowed to do it one of the top residencies in America at Grady Hospital, where you see everything.
For emergency medicine, I mean, that's
everything.
The pinnacle.
Tons of trauma. I got the best training in the world and then went back into the military in the Navy, but serving on a Marine Corps base at Camp Lejeune. Did my last tour in Afghanistan in 2016.
Okay.
Retired in 2000. I was the head of emergency medicine over there. Retired a year later, and then came back here and started working as an ER doc in Northside Hospital until I went into politics. And so there's my whole life story in a nutshell.
That's incredible.
As crazy as it might sound.
That is absolutely incredible. Couple of things. What was it like? So about 20 years after undergrad, you went back to get your pre-med requisites. What was it like going back to college, having all that life experience?
Easier and harder. So easier because I'm not distracted by the things that young men are distracted by.
Sure.
Like sports.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Sports.
And so I wasn't worried about my social life. I was just worried about studying. So that was easier. But you're also, I think I started medical school at 37 years old.
Okay.
So imagine when you're mid-30s, you're just not built for staying up on all-nighters anymore. Right. And I did it anyways. You push through. You do what you got to do. Yeah. That's kind of a Marine thing. And did fine. And but Georgia Tech is no joke. It's one of the top universities in the world, not just the United States, but the world. Luckily, I didn't have to take engineering, but I did have to take organic chemistry and other things, and I'm competing against very bright students, but did well enough to get into school. But medical school is, for anybody who hasn't even thought about it, lots of people want to be in medicine.
Yep.
And very few make it. I mean, the ratio is absurd, how many people get weeded out in the process. But I think a lot of my accomplishments in life, I can't really even attribute to my abilities. I don't think of myself as exceptionally gifted, and I'm not saying that to be humble. I really don't. I felt like I was slow in middle school. I had special reading programs. Something didn't click. I don't know if I had dyslexia or something like that, but something clicked later on in life where I was able to snap in, get rid of, find ways to get around ADD and stuff that held me back before. I became more focused and I pushed through, and next thing you know, here I am now with an MD and an MBA, a guy who doesn't even like to read.
Right.
And I read all the time now, and I listen to audiobooks all the time because it's the only way to get better.
It is.
What's the two hardest things to do? Probably being a parent and being married, right?
Yep.
But we never study that stuff.
Yep.
In politics, we have a habit of talking party lines instead of studying it, being an expert in these things and understanding why we make the decisions we have so we can debate it and have discussions. And by the way, made this the most important part of this interview and maybe the key to our success, the reason we do very well in politics.
Sure.
The way we've won elections when we were endorsed against by the biggest names in the Republican Party and in some very contentious races. Authenticity is a big thing. Always be yourself. Don't go off of party lines. Don't try to be somebody else. There's only one Trump.
Yep.
Be yourself. And one of the things that I always say, people who want to be influential, and this is for kids out there, anybody who's a kid out there listening to this, or anybody who just wants to be influential, the thing that I found is far too often we're trying to win an argument.
Right.
You get online, you're like, this jerk, I'm gonna prove him wrong. So you get in these arguments. How many times have you seen people go, oh, you're right, I'm an idiot.
Right. Zero.
I'm so glad I got online to be proven an idiot. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I got here for. It never happens. That's not influential. Screaming on a street corner doesn't convert people.
Right.
If you want somebody to come to your church, you don't start a conversation by calling them an idiot.
Right.
And you can't invite them to the Bible study while you're vilifying them or winning an argument. It's not how it works. If you want to grow the church, you want to grow your business, you want to grow your political influence, convince them that you love them.
Sure.
And you have real influence. You can talk about anything after that. You can talk about abortion, guns rights, anything. As long as they think, and this is not a one-time conversation that you can have, you'll never prove to somebody you love them by one conversation.
Right.
You may feel good about me because I feel genuine or I'm really listening to you, but if you want people to truly buy in, you got to prove to them over time and touch points that you're more interested in their well-being than winning the conversation.
Absolutely.
And so that's been the secret of our success. And I think that's why, I think that's our secret sauce, relationships.
Well, and you got an impressive resume. Do you think growing up, maybe on the West Coast, coming to the East Coast, seeing all that you did in the military service, did that influence your ability to be authentic?
There's a passion about, and I'm an overly religious guy, but I consider myself humbly an imperfect being that's trying real hard.
Sure.
And I think there's a passage I really like. It's be all things to all people. And I think God has literally prepared me for this moment in time by all these weird experiences.
Yeah.
You think about my background, the East Coast, the West Coast, the Marines, the Navy, the foreign, I'm on foreign affairs and I'm in 50 different countries, a lot of them bad places.
Yeah.
The experiences at Morehouse, with a different demographic than most conservatives will ever come in touch with. My experiences in medicine and healthcare, the two biggest spending items in government. You look at the demographics of my district, and I spent a tour in India, 3 tours in Korea, tours in Africa, Morehouse. My demographics are Indian, Korean, African, East Asian. I mean, it's literally like God, before I ever thought about politics, God prepared me for this time and for this district for these challenges of the United States.
I love that. That's incredible.
Well, you kind of hit on it a little bit, but what made you decide to run for Congress?
So I went down to the Capitol with a bunch of doctors. It was White Coat Day at the Georgia Capitol, and had no aspirations at that point. And we were presenting on surprise billing, which about half of Americans probably had the problem. Where you go to the ER, you go to your physician, you get a bill, and you're like, wait a minute, I have insurance. why am I getting this bill?
Right.
And so since then, we've had a national law written that's been abused by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, last administration, really bad, where they're still not enforcing it the way it was intended. So we came up with state law because we didn't have a federal law at the time. This is our second go at the time, and we're getting screwed with by our own party. And I thought we were the good guys. I didn't like special interests get involved in like insurance companies being the focus point. It should be about patients.
Right.
And so I got really angry. I was like, are you kidding me? And during the hearings, I'm like, this is crazy. I'm going to take off my white jacket. I'm going to go out there and kick some butt. Forget this white coat. I'm going to be a Marine. They're like, you're going to get put in jail.
Right. Stay seated, sir.
Stay seated. Shut up. But I was ranting about it at lunch, and a bunch of these doctors were like, well, if you're that upset about it, why don't you run for office? Because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I was like, well, how do you do that? And I had never been to a political meeting in my life.
Yeah.
I don't know any politicians. I've never been in a fundraiser, nothing. And so I ended up running against my state senator, who is the former head of Health and Human Services, and who had $1 million in the bank, had 11 or 12 mayor's endorser, and we had an 11-way race to begin with. We ended up winning. I mean, there's a lot of hard work and it's a great team, great approach to the way we did this. We ended up winning without a runoff, and the second place petitioner was 40 points behind us. That's some crazy results, and it's not. Once again, it's not explainable. I don't think I'm that good. I'm surrounded by a lot of great people, but there's a lot of pieces that were put in place that I couldn't have even planned. It's an amazing testimony to the way God works.
Sure.
And that can end at any time, by the way. I truly believe that once you stop giving credit to the right place, or if that's the end of it, that's the end of it. That's the way it's supposed to work. And you should be okay with that.
Yeah.
And then we ended up losing in it. That was a primary, and losing in the general. I was told I won that night, by the way. This is in 2020. I was told I won by a independent lawyer who'd done 6 previous elections. And she said, congratulations. There's no way that you can be overcome. And then I got that weird 2:00 phone call in the morning. It was like, oh, wait, we found a bunch of more votes. I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean you found them? Well, we don't think we count. Well, how many did you have at the end of the night?
Right.
We don't know. Wait, what? How do you mean you don't know? Nobody did a count? And so it was a real, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Sure.
But it was a weird night. And once I started asking questions, they're like, oh, you're right. You won. So it changed again. And they called me like, no, the computer's malfunctioned. Blah. It was a weird freaking night.
Yeah.
Long story short, we ended up losing a very narrow election. We got reapportioned here in Georgia. And the next time it was a heavily Republican favored district.
Right.
But now I'm going in a 9-way race against a guy who's endorsed by, and this is because of ties. Trump's a loyal guy, but
right.
His ambassador to Luxembourg, the same guy who hosted the last 10 GOP conventions in Georgia, who's very close to Newt Gingrich, is his lawyer.
Yeah.
His son I was running against. So I ended up getting, long story short, endorsed against by Trump, by Pompeo, by Sean Hannity, by Matt Slapp, CPAC, Newt Gingrich, Bob Barr. And a lot of money get put against us.
That's a heavy hitter list.
Yeah, here's a who's who. But more to my point, endorsements don't mean as much as people think.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to see people drop out of races because they didn't get the right endorsement. And by the way, all that goes away once you win. Everybody's friends again. And it's the truth. I mean, because we got to work together. And I feel like I have a great relationship with President Trump, with Newt Gingrich, all those people. I have a great relationship, great respect. But we ended up winning by double. I mean, it was once again, it was meant to be. We ended up with this great district, which I already explained how great this district is. It's the best district in Georgia.
It's a really cool
objectively.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe a little subjectively.
And I can attest to the relationship aspect. I mean, when he first started running, he called up the city manager and was like, hey, I want to come meet the city council. And I thought it would be a big dog and pony,
right?
Hundreds of people there. Nah, we sat down with this guy, 3 or 4 of us, and just had a conversation. I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. No state or federal guy's ever done that before. So first time I met him was just kind of like this. We were just hanging out, having a conversation. It was pretty cool.
And more to the point, most of you guys that I've met had way more experience and way more knowledge than I did.
Yeah.
When I came, I had a philosophy, I had some education, but no experience in politics. And it was literally like a PhD course for me. We have more access to information as congressmen than anybody else except for maybe the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Or maybe certain secretaries. But, hanging out with you and learning, what the local issues are. Literally, hanging out with the police officers, find out what their issues are.
Yeah.
This is a PhD course on the things that, economy, on foreign affairs, on science-based technology, on energy. There is so much to learn, not talking points.
Right.
I hate talking points. No offense to the party. Party works very hard.
Sure.
And they want us to be united in our messaging. I get that. But that's redundancy for a purpose of driving home a point for political gain.
Sure.
I want to educate and I want to be educated. This is when you guys tell me stuff that I don't know, it makes me better. And hopefully we share ideas and we get better together. And that's a lot more persuasive when you're talking to the people who are waffling, trying to figure out where they want to go with their political demeanor.
Yeah.
And it's genuine because I have a lot to learn. And by the way, that feedback is always there. We have the best constituent services in America.
Yeah.
My team, Al Chall is my district director.
Awesome
He
guy.
runs a tight shop. But our team understands, everybody reads a book called Excellence Wins, which is about service orientation. The guy, Horst Schulze, who ended up living in my district just by coincidence, he used to run the Ritz-Carlton, wrote a book that's about service-oriented industry, about finding a way to say yes. It's so easy in government to say, we can't do that. It's a rule.
Sure.
I hate that.
Yeah.
It's not a good answer. And that's why I think in volume and in timeliness and in courtesy, I want to lead the way. And that's the interaction we have with other folks. I think that's our magic.
Talking about learning and the whole process, what were your expectations going to DC? And then what was it like? What was reality when you got there? How did that differ?
My expectations, I'm going to change the world, right?
Right.
McCormick, I've seen the movie. I know I can do this.
Got a plan. Let's go.
I got a plan. I'm going to eliminate all debt. It's going to be amazing. We're going to balance the budget. You have some grandiose ideas of what you can do when you get up there. Then you realize that democracy is very frustrating. People say, you were under democracy or a republic. Actually, we're both.
Right.
Once again, read, know your stuff. Realize that democracy is exceedingly frustrating, and our Constitution was designed in a way so it would make it really hard to get things done. And that change would be really slow. But it's on purpose so that the government would never become more powerful than the people. And here's the dirty little secret that people don't realize. Well, first of all, there's two things Americans hate, right? They hate the way things are, and they hate change.
Right.
So when you're talking about democracy and trying to change things, it's great when you're in power, when you can change things. But it's really bad when the other team's in charge and they want to change things.
Right.
And if you change things too quickly, the economy's going to go like this. It's going to do all kinds of, you won't be able to adjust as a business owner, as a civilian. You won't know what's happening. And it's too fast. And it doesn't reach that compromise that democracy is built for. I never get my way. I'm super conservative. I'm never going to eliminate the deficit while I'm in Congress. I wish I could. I am holding out. I was one of 35 to vote against the last CR in December. I voted for this great, big, beautiful bill begrudgingly because it was the best thing we could get, but it wasn't a great bill, quite frankly. We're increasing our deficit spending. We're going to increase our debt dramatically, even with the offsets of the tariffs and other great things of the economy. We're not going to catch up. We're going to extend the debt. We're going to be more beholden, and our children are going to be labored by that.
Sure.
And burdened by that. And I'm really upset by that. But there's a reality check when you get up of you have to climb the ladder. You have to become more influential. You got to sell the message to the people. You got to convince the people to put pressure on the other congressmen to do the right things, and you will make slow progress towards the right things. So that's been my big thing. The one thing that disappoints me is that how many people are up there that only do talking points, that think, by the way, they're the answer to everything. Now I realize that in probably the most efficient form of government is a monarchy or a dictatorship or a theocracy, right? Where one person calls all the shots. But that always takes power away from the people, right?
Completely.
This is to protect the people. Now, when I get up there, I realize that I have an idea of what's perfect. But everybody else has their idea of what they think is perfect too. Now, if I got my way, it would be great. But that's not the way it's going to be. As a matter of fact, one of the things that disappoints me is even though I read all the time, I think I'm an expert, and I think a lot of people don't.
Right.
And they quite frankly are uneducated when they make assumptions on things. And I'm not going to get specific because you'll know exactly who I'm talking about immediately, both in the Republican Party and the Democrats, by the way. But I think it's a very dangerous mentality for any party, especially the Republicans, to think that we all have to agree on things.
Yeah. That
there's only one person who decides what our party represents. And that it doesn't care if it's somebody uber conservative or liberal, or somebody in the middle, or the president or vice president or secretary. It doesn't matter. If you're in a church where everybody agrees with the minister on everything, it's a cult. We're not a cult. That's unhealthy.
Yeah.
We're supposed to think independently. We're supposed to disagree. We're supposed to have civil discord. That's the American way. And unfortunately, we lost that. People are vilified for being too conservative, or vilified for being too liberal, or having a difference of opinion on any one single item.
Sure.
We need to understand that, once again, I'm not going to influence you by by debating you and proving you're wrong.
Right.
But if you trust me that I really want what's best for you, maybe we can have some movement towards a direction that's beneficial to the United States, and hopefully my opinion too, because you know that I actually care about you more than winning the argument.
Yeah. I mean, a little compromise is always, you want to find that middle ground.
It's the unfortunate part of democracy that's necessary for this republic to survive.
When you find yourself in a debate like that, and the people are just sticking to the talking points, whatever it may be, is it always the loudest voice that wins, or how does the reason work its way through there?
Yes, sometimes. I'll give the last big beautiful bill, the Salt Caucus. Only about 6 members really are holdouts. They just increased the deficit spending by probably about $350 billion.
Yeah.
That kills me. Is it a deduction on taxes? Yeah, that's great. But we have a debt problem that's massive. So sometimes it's people who just draw a line in the sand. And the question is, why can't the Doctors Caucus do that? Well, you can, but you have to be willing to take the punishment and the heat. And some people have to realize that even though when I'm really conservative, if I stand up for it, I still have to get something passed, or the Democrats will get what they want. So in other words, they may be willing in the Salt Caucus to walk over to the other side to get what they want. They know I'll never do that. So I don't have the same power. And that's the dirty little secret. Once again, I try to get the best possible deal possible, but if it fails, we're going to end up with another CR. We're going to end up with something that's a worse compromise, and that's how they convinced me to vote for the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah. Is
because it was the best possible. President Trump literally was talking to us. We're on a conference call. It was like, because we had about 19 of us are holding out. I was like, I'm not going to vote for this. This is a horrible bill. We're spending too much still.
Yep.
And he's like, look, if we send this back to the Senate, it's going to get worse. I promise you. And I took him for his word, and we passed it.
And is it something that can be not retrofitted, but worked on as you go on in the administration?
There is a rescission process that hopefully will save some, but quite frankly, about 90% of the budget is already set.
Yeah. So
if you look at Social Security, it's set. Now, Social Security will get an automatic 21% cut when it goes bankrupt in about 6 years. That's automatic.
Yeah.
And we're not going to allow that. So what that means is we'll vote to increase our debt dramatically. Our currency's already been downgraded twice in the last year. If it gets downgraded against, the interest rates for borrowing gets higher, which means it once again hamstrings us. It decreases our currency value. It decreases our power of negotiation in the future. Really worries me. That's the reality right now. We have a problem that we have not addressed significantly with Social Security. And everybody's like, oh, you're going to cut Social Security? No, I don't want to. I don't want to do anything like that. But what if we guarantee it for people receiving it right now, people who are close to receiving it 10 years away? That's probably what's going to happen. But if you're 10 years, 15 years, maybe adjust it by a few months, maybe a year, because people are living a couple years longer than the last time we adjusted it. That's a reasonable bipartisan solution. But if we vilify each other, right, nothing will ever get passed. We'll do a knee-jerk reaction last second, and it'll be horrible. And we'll be that much worse off instead of adjusting it now where people can go, I got 15 years to adjust. I'll work another 6 months. Cool. And people are not that upset. Last time we adjusted Social Security in 1987, nobody lost their job because it was a compromise of two parties that did a bipartisan bill because it was necessary. It's the biggest spending item, single spending item in our budget. And when you're spending 34% than you bring in, you got to do something. Second is healthcare. Medicaid and Medicare combined are more than Social Security. It's the biggest spending item collectively that we do, and it's about $2.5 trillion of $7 trillion that we spend on healthcare. Incredibly inefficient. We used to spend 1/3 of all the budget, all government spending was federal and 2/3 was everything else.
Yeah.
Now we're 2/3 of all government spending because we got addicted to just printing money.
Sure.
And now we've taken over Medicaid. Up to 90% of Medicaid programs are paid for in certain states. That's supposed to be a state-run agency that has accountability inside the state, where it can contrast and compare state legislation and Medicaid application and say which one's best.
Yeah.
Now it's federally run and it's growing, and it's a huge burden, and it's not accountable, and it has tons of waste, fraud, and abuse. Likewise, Medicare has tons of waste, fraud, and abuse, and that's going to go bankrupt. Automatic 11% cut without a vote on it in probably about 7, 8, 9 years. But we're not going to let it go bankrupt, so there's more debt. So you see, we're going to reach a crux within the next presidency, not this presidency. Next presidency, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, the bill will come to pay, and then we're in trouble.
Yeah. And
I'd rather do something for it right now than wait and have a true depression.
Sure.
That's what I'm worried about. And that's math, by the way. That's objective math. Did you hear anything political in what I said?
No, not really.
That's just the truth. And there's no debate in it. No, Democrats wouldn't say, oh, you're right. They'd say, you're right. We need to raise taxes to pay for that. I say reduce spending. They say increase taxes.
Right.
The Laffer curve with anybody in economics says you find a sweet spot in the taxes, because if you raise taxes too much, people start hiding your money. You have less jobs, less revenue for the government, which is what we saw. When we took the last tax cut, which we just locked in with a big, beautiful bill at 21%, which is probably the sweet spot of the Laffer curve, pretty close anyways. We actually increased revenue. Even though we decreased taxes, we increased the amount of tax revenue we brought in because more jobs, better economy. People don't hide their money as much when you don't tax it as much. It opened up the economy. If we would have increased it back to the old taxation, we would have crashed. And Biden benefited from that 21% tax rate the entire presidency he had, because that was instituted at the end of first term. Yeah. So when I say we got to be careful about how we approach this very cerebrally, we got to be careful, because we're not going to tax our way out of this. And oh, by the way, we're not going to be on the other side. We're not going to grow our way out of this either. If you have double the average, which is about 2% growth of GDP per year, if we do it 4%, we're 30% deficit. And by the way, that's getting interest, compounded interest every year. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to grow our way out of this either. You're not going to get 8% sustained growth for 10 years. It ain't going to happen. Yeah. So let's have a realistic conversation, an educated conversation, a loving conversation about our future of our children. And maybe we can start saving ourselves from something catastrophic.
I mean, and that sounds like it's very important to you. And it may be too simple to ask this question, but if you had to bullet point 3 or 4 items for your congressional career that you want to accomplish, what would it be?
To greatly reduce deficit spending.
Right.
You notice I didn't say eliminate, because I would love to say that, but I'm trying to be realistic here. Right. But to have a realistic approach where we get back to a balanced budget. We can do that. That's going to take a while, but we can get back to a balanced budget where we can start paying down the debt. It's going to take forever. $37 trillion does not go away. And by the way, by the time we get serious about it, by the time we get to that 10-year budget where we start to swing, which I think is a joke, because by that time you get 5 years in, you got a new president and 2 new Congresses. So if we could just start bending the curve and have a realistic conversation about spending in the future and the way we run our government programs, and I got some great bills out there that can reinvent the way we spend them. But if we're going to have that conversation now and start being proactive rather than reactive, which is what we typically do, I think we have a chance. It's still going to be tough. The Federal Reserve is not our friend. First of all, it's Federal Reserve. It's not federal, nor is it reserve. There's the irony, right? And if you ever want to read a really good book on that, read The Creature from Jekyll Island. Right here in Georgia is where the Federal Reserve was essentially created, this brainchild of a bunch of very uber wealthy people that controlled about 70% of America's wealth at the time, came together with the brainchild of how to run a central bank in America. And we've never been the same since. It's a big part of what we've had as a problem.
Somebody, I don't talk about that book. It was, I can't remember. Brent, maybe?
It might have been Brent, yeah. So kind of for members of the community here, what do you think is a good way for them to get involved and be helpful in things that you're working on, or just what's your general advice for people to get involved?
So first of all, if you want to be involved, be educated. It's really important to read up on this stuff, to be a person of the people, understand economics, understand businesses, understand that we have to, by the way, we have to have a healthy legal immigration system in order to keep illegal immigration from happening. We should be leading the way on this. The business of America is business. What's good for business when you have expanding? People are like, oh, we got tons of people in America that should be filling these jobs. You're right. 18 million. Those are the people that we want to take off Medicaid. By the way, this is a great conversation for anybody who vilifies not allowing people who are able-bodied people to be on Medicaid without looking for a job, without volunteering, without having a part-time job at least. Let me speak directly to people as an ER doc. People who think that that's the wrong answer, first of all, realize you have worse or harder requirements to get your money back from unemployment. You paid into unemployment. This is for something you never paid into, Medicaid. If you're sitting at home, you're one of those 18 million people that can work. I'm not talking about mothers with little kids. I'm not talking about truly disabled people. I'm not talking about those people. People who are able-bodied Americans sitting at home, not even looking for work. And by the way, this is a dirty little secret too. We're calculating unemployment, not counting the people who aren't looking for work. That happened during the Obama administration. Everybody cares for it because nobody wants to go back to the old system. It'll make us look a lot worse than the Reagan era, where we counted people who weren't looking for work. Dirty little secrets. But the reason we don't want that to happen is because as an ER doc, anywhere from a quarter to a third of my patients have depression, anxiety, suicidality, drug and alcohol use. And when I talk to them about it, and I talk to thousands and thousands of patients, those people have one thing in common. They're focused right here. They feel sorry for themselves. They don't feel good about themselves. And usually it's because they're uninvolved. They're sitting at home. They're not looking for a job. They're not volunteering. They're not having personal interaction with other people. That's the worst possible thing you can do. Giving you something doesn't give you value. It doesn't make you feel good about life. It's the worst possible thing I can do as a government to say, I'm just going to give you Medicaid while you sit at home and do nothing. You don't even volunteer. What we ask for is not only reasonable, but it's good for you. This idea that we're going to vilify a bill for requesting that you actually participate in society, that should never be vilified. That is an absolutely brilliant strategy in approaching something that, first of all, is costing us a lot of money and not good for you at the same time. But we have to reinvent the way we approach government spending and our challenges as we go forward.
Want to hit the quick fire?
Yeah, we'll get into it. How are we doing on time? Good.
Good. All right. So this is our fun little section here. We do kind of quick fire questions. So in your district, what is your favorite spot to go to?
You're kind of asking me what my favorite kid is right here, right? I'm going to make somebody mad. I'd say, if I'm looking for my happy place, anywhere on Lake Lanier, which is, the great portion of it spans several counties in Georgia. It's a gorgeous place. It's the most utilized lake in America. It's man-made. It brings in more revenue than any other man-made lake, and it's most visited in America. It's just a great place to hang out. It's gorgeous. That's my happy place.
Okay. If someone's visiting DC for the first time, what's a must-see?
That's a tough one too. I love the Space and Aeronautics Museum. That one you have to advance reserve because it's that popular. Spy Museum, very cool. It's the only one that actually costs money. The Bible Museum is really cool too. The Library of Congress is really cool. It's actually one of the oldest buildings in DC. It's the first one to have electricity before even the Capitol did. It's got the oldest elevator in DC as a result. Everything has a story behind it. It's gorgeous inside. I mean, it's just one of the most, it's like the Vatican almost, the way it's painted, and every picture has a story behind it. It's just fast. If you like history, place to be.
Oh, yeah.
I was more curious about food options.
There's some good food in DC.
Where's the eating spot?
There's some good food in DC, man. The Cap Grill. Gosh, you're asking me a tough one because there's I eat more good meals in DC than I probably ever eat in my life. I'm a guy who's grown up eating 5 out of 7 meals, spaghetti or pizza.
Right.
That's just what all my life.
Yeah.
I'm blessed with good genetics, but spaghetti and pizza is what I always ate. And now I'm going to fancy dinners, talking about big items, and it's a bizarre twist of fate. I'm sure it's not as healthy. I'm sure it's going to show in a couple of years. But
my problem with pizza is I can't eat just a piece of pizza. I'm going to eat the entire thing you put in front of me. But
same with spaghetti. I'll take a whole plateful of that and destroy it.
I've got to pick on you a minute. So if somebody's in D.C. and they're doing a tour of the Capitol Dome, Do you recommend they do pull-ups on the crossbars? I saw the story about that. I've got to ask.
Oh boy, a little bit overblown. They're like, you were doing pull-ups above the dome floor by 200 feet, dangling. It sounded horrible. I was like, sounds kind of like Point Break, though. So instead of, I did, full disclosure, I did a bunch of pull-ups inside on the crossbars. I didn't think it was dangerous. My comms team.
Yeah, but he's a guy that jumps out of helicopters.
There you go. See, I jump out of helicopters. I fly helicopters on the carrier in the middle of the night. And matter of fact, when they interviewed me, a bunch of reporters like, hey, did you think you did the right thing? I just had a little fun. They're like, well, didn't you think it was dangerous? Like, you realize what I did for a living, right? I mitigate risk back and forth. I was a safety school guy, so I didn't feel it was that dangerous. Well, how many did you do? I think they were trying to prove that I did a lot and it was going to be dangerous. I would fall off. And I was like, I did only 5 more than Teddy Roosevelt when he did the same thing, right? And not to make light of it, because I'm not going to get in the scenario, but I just having fun. Yeah. And it wasn't, if I would have fallen, maybe I would have hurt myself, but it wasn't death-defying. But what's funny is since you're brave, always lean in, always embrace. This is Trump's magic, by the way. He doesn't back down. And if you embrace it and you say, yeah, I did that. And, you don't get all, soft about things. You realize that we're going to do some things in life that may be a little edgy, and that's okay. I'm not hurting anybody else. I'm not messing with people. I'm not doing something disrespectful. I didn't do anything that really, there's no rule that said I couldn't do it. And it's the people's house.
Yeah, we thought it was great.
I'm not sure everybody should try it because maybe some people could get hurt. But it was fun. Matter of fact, when it came out, the story came out, broke, and my chief was really worried about it. We got a ton of love. It was people calling, is it true that you do this? That's so cool. Young guys and stuff like that. Sometimes you just got to be yourself.
Yeah. I tried to find a video of it. I couldn't find a video. So if you got one hidden somewhere else.
We didn't post it. So I figured if I got in trouble by the Capitol Police, I probably should not glorify it. And I also want to make sure that I'm not glorifying something that I don't want other people to do. Like I said, it was a fun event. I didn't think anything I could do, 20, 30 pull-ups, not even thinking about it. And it wasn't hanging over the middle. I hate to even say this because I kind of like the story, but it wasn't hanging 200 feet above the floor. It was nothing like that.
We'll edit that part out. He was 200 feet above.
That's right.
And for everybody listening this morning, like I said, he was kicking our butt in a workout, and you were doing basically inverted pull-ups.
Yeah, we get some tricks. As you get older, like I said, Father Time's undefeated. So I got a million ways to win. So I got to find things I'm good at now. And we have some fun challenges that I like to do with the young pups that are challenging me still.
Talking about fun.
So, on it.
Get in there.
All right. So, Congressman, we're on the precipice of the greatest time to be a Southerner. College football season. What you got? You got any predictions? Who's your team? What are you looking for?
Well, it's easy to be a Georgia fan. We've had a couple really good years. Last year was a little
recently
bit. When we have a down year, like, oh, you're ranked 10th. What the heck? Oh my gosh, fire the coach, right? The average team would love to be Georgia. Georgia Tech's doing better.
Yep.
They've kind of found their groove. They're becoming more competitive. Too bad they have to play Georgia. It's tough, but it's going to be really interesting to watch because Texas is coming here, and Texas is always loaded up. And last year, I made the biggest bet of my life with a fellow congressman on the Texas game, and I was there when they won. And then we played them again.
Yep.
And we won again.
Did you go double or nothing?
We did.
I love it.
We went double or nothing. And Morgan Luttrell, who was a good buddy of mine, Navy SEAL, paid up, much to his credit. He's a man's man.
I like it.
By the way, we've completed in pull-ups too. We love these competitions.
I love it.
But I think Georgia should handle business. It's going to be competitive, though. There's no slouches out there anymore. No. The SEC is no freaking joke. And we beat up each other on each other. But Texas is going to be tough. Georgia's going to be tough. Ohio State's always tough. Michigan's always tough. Those are the big four in my mind. One of those four is probably going to rise up.
I like it. Do you ever go back to Oregon to catch an Oregon State game?
I have not been to an Oregon State game since I graduated.
Okay.
When I was there, we had we're infamous for having the longest losing streak in the nation for Division I football, and then we finally broke that my senior year. And I remember we won against, I don't know if it was against Oregon or somebody. to have a 500 season, and we stormed the field and carried out the goalpost. 500 this season! Wow, let's go!
You're obligated to tear down the goalpost.
It was such a big deal, but I am going back to Oregon for the first time in over a decade this year.
Okay,
it'd be kind of cool to see the waterfalls and stuff like that. I grew up around. Their politics are all upside down. I just can't imagine living on the West Coast anymore with their taxation, their regulation, their oppressive government. It's really a shame to see what they've done. They've ruined some really good terrain with some really bad politics.
I've never been to Oregon. California a couple of times. It's beautiful. But yeah.
I used to go hiking in San Jacinto. I used to climb Joshua Tree. I've climbed Shasta.
Yeah.
Been Mountain Warfare School in Bridgeport. It's a phenomenal experience. California, Oregon, Washington, gorgeous West Coast states. Too bad their politics have gone south. And I don't mean south the way we think about it.
Right. Talking about politics, I assume being a Republican, you're a gun guy?
Absolutely.
All right, military guy. What was your favorite service-issued weapon?
So while I was in the military, we changed up now. We're about to change up the squad automatic weapon to a really interesting weapon that's modified the round to have the most lethal effect. But while I was in, I love the squad automatic weapon, but the weapon that I used the most was the M16A2.
Okay.
I actually set a course record back when I was in the Marine Corps at the time, almost a perfect score from both the B mod and before that, the regular. We had a 250-point system. I got 249 out of 250.
Yeah.
That's good eyes and a good technique. And then on the B mod, I had 49 out of 50. So really loved shooting rifles. Got better at pistol. I was always an expert in pistol, but got better as I went on. But the M16A2 was my rifle of choice. We did the iron sights. We didn't have the dots or anything like that. And they have now everything. I mean, every rifle has a scope on it. They're spoiled.
What about now on the civilian side? What's your gun?
I have a Glock. Love Glocks. But actually, my weapon of choice that I kind of grew up with, and Mel Gibson was my dude. I remember growing up watching Lethal Weapon. I used to try to practice rolling while I'm shooting, Not very accurate, by the way. It's not shooting smiley faces in the target, maybe at 5 feet.
Right.
But I love the M9, the 9mm Beretta. It carries a ton of bullets, and it's a very accurate weapon, very reliable weapon. It rarely jams. But the Glock is kind of the new weapon of choice now. So they're both great weapons.
So the M9 is my nightstand gun. It's too heavy to carry.
Yeah,
so,
it's not a good concealed weapon.
Yeah,
No doubt about that. Yep. You give up the number of rounds when you're trying to conceal.
Yeah,
for sure.
That thing's got to weigh 10 pounds when it's fully loaded. I mean, it
is, but you get used to it.
Yeah.
And Mel Gibson hit it somewhere. I'm not sure. I won't get into that.
Theater magic. If you had dinner with President Trump, what's one question you'd want to ask him?
Essentially, when I won my election, he invited me down to Mar-a-Lago. We spent one-on-one time in his library, about an hour and a half. It was history. I literally journaled the whole thing. We talked about everything, politics, the military. He got very hurt when somebody accused him of bad-mouthing the military at a ceremony. Yep. That actually hurt his. I could tell he was genuinely hurt. He's like, "You don't think people believe that, do you?" I mean, why would he ask me that? He's not a guy who gets his feelings hurt very often. He doesn't really care. That bothered him. It genuinely bothered him. We talk about sports. He's got a brilliant mind. Whether you like him or not, he's sharp. Sure. And he does a lot of things because he's trying to troll the media. He does it on purpose. He's actually a genius at controlling their
master at it.
He's a master at it. But I would probably ask him about what his plan is for our non-discretionary spending. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, things that are tough things. He realized are third rail things. He could lose an election for us if we're not careful. What's the plan though? How are we going to secure the future, not just for the golden era, his presidency, but the next presidency, for the future of America, for his children, for his grandchildren? That's the $1 million question. It's really a tough one to answer, and it's very complex. It'll be another hour conversation. But he's actually really good one-on-one. Everybody who meets with him one-on-one, or even in small groups, really, even people you wouldn't think. Bill Maher, great example, right? Yep. Of you go in there. Actually, it's a good conversation. It's a realistic conversation.
Would have loved to have been in on that dinner. I bet that dinner was wild.
And you heard Bill talk about it, right? Yeah. He enjoyed it.
Yep.
And it was a genuine, it wasn't a bunch of platitudes, because Trump doesn't use party line stuff either. In fact, a lot of times I get interviews, funny thing, I'll be getting ready to go on Fox or Newsmax, and all of a sudden they'll say, President Trump just said this. What do you think? I'm like, dang it. And now I have to be careful what I say. I'm like, I don't want to say, he said what? But he's genuine. He's going to say things that he's thinking. He's the guy that says things that he's thinking. And I think that's refreshing. People like that. He brings people out. Like, he does things that people wouldn't expect. If he's Happy Gilmore, he's going to get in a fight with Bob Barker. He's going to throw his golf club occasionally. He's going to yell something when you're swinging. But he makes it fun.
So we've heard you're a family man. You've traveled the world, done all these things. What's something Congressman McCormick likes to do? Wind down with your family, maybe a vacation spot. Give us a little insight of personal Rich McCormick time of when you're not saving people in the ER or on the Hill and traveling everywhere, doing these interviews. So,
I love the United States. Actually has the most diverse topography, geography of any country in the world I've been to. There are a lot of countries out there with diversity, but think about, we have the rainiest and the driest places in the world. We have mountains that go, 20,000 feet in the air, and you got below sea level. I mean, you have huge plains of Texas. You got North Dakota. Think about the four corners of the United States, how diverse it is. But it's also fun to travel abroad and see the history. We don't have history in the United States. We think that 200 years is a long time. Go to somewhere where there's 2,000 years of history. Go to Israel. Watch the four religions come to a point. Watch where you see where Christ walked 2,000 years ago. See temples, you see synagogues, see churches, experience history real time, and then watch the contemporary issues that exist there too.
Sure.
I can't go to the Great Wall of China, which bums me out because I really love history. I love Chinese history, even the stuff they screwed up. It's just fascinating. I can't go there because of politics.
Right.
They won't allow me to go there. Won't allow me to go to Russia. But go to Croatia, where they filmed Game of Thrones. There's some gorgeous geography there and topography. And I like traveling. I like seeing new places. Been on safari. I've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I want to climb the 7 summits. Don't know if I'll make it up Everest because, once again, it's in a difficult location. Yep. But love challenging myself, both learning educationally wise and physically with challenges that are new. And I'm getting older now. I got to find ways to do that. Because if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yep.
Mentally, physically, spiritually. My boys, hanging out with my boys, playing sports and stuff. They know they can literally recite. If they say, what's the McCormick mantra? They say, be your best mentally, physically, and especially spiritually. That's something they enjoy. They're good men. The best compliment I could give to them is that they're the kind of guys you want your daughter to date. It sums it up, right? That paints a vivid picture in your mind.
Well, that's important to us. There's 3 of us, and we have 4, 2, and 2 girls, all girls in the firm. So
God knew I couldn't handle that.
We're hoping for those good men. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, tell everybody, we'll wrap it up. Tell everybody where they can find you, how they can follow what you're doing, stay informed on the campaigns, that type of thing.
Yeah, we say richmccormick.us, but quite frankly, you just Google my name and you're going to see 1,000 different things. Careful what you look at.
That is true.
I get trolled all the time. It's pretty bad. But get involved.
Yeah.
Educate yourself. Reach out to your congressman if you have questions. If you need help, constituent services. Like I said, we're not going to ever ask you if you're a Democrat or Republican. We're going to ask you, how can we help you? And we try to find a way to say yes. And if it can be done, it will be done. Feel free to reach out. I mean, we do meetings. We do great meetings.
Yeah.
We'll continue to do town halls despite the kickback, right? Yeah. I think it's really important that we stay engaged, that we remain a community that realizes that we're diverse.
Yep.
We're the most diverse districts in all America, but we're doing pretty darn well.
You on social media?
Yeah, everything.
Okay.
I won't even mention it because we're on, like I say, Facebook, Instagram, X, Truth. I think we're on every media. God help you if you're a comms director because it's endless. Endless. And then, of course, all the media outlets like you guys. It's great to be on your show, by the way. My favorite podcast, in case you're going to ask me that.
That was supposed to be our last question. Well, thank you for joining us. This was a great conversation. Enjoy getting to know you. I think everybody else is going to love it too.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for you guys being with the police of coming today.
That was fun.
Working out with us. That was fantastic.
I thank PJ Gervin for setting all this up and,
That's right.
and getting us in here to work out and do this.
Chief.
It's great. The Chief. And as always, you guys can find us, bettismusgrove.com, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We're on there. Get the podcast at anywhere you get your podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.